It is absolutely not the case. There is no man controlling traffic anywhere in the FAA today who is not qualified and perfectly capable of handling the traffic that he's required to do. We have a safety valve. Anytime there is more traffic than the controller can handle, even with limited staffing, aircraft are kept on the ground or delayed so that the controller is not overworked.
In the Dallas-Fort Worth facility, how many men do you have on sick leave today?
Well, normal watch in our 3 facilities in Dallas-Fort Worth, the complement would be 101. We actually have 14 on sick leave today, but that does not mean that these men are participating in any sick out, because our norm would be in the neighborhood of 10 or 11. So that at the present time we may have a few more than normal. But I want to commend and compliment the controllers in this entire region for their support of the FAA and the public in reporting and maintaining their watches.
Cochise, not only the general contractors, but the mechanical contractors, the masonry contractors, the painters, and all the other types of contractors have unified to present a unified voice when it comes to negotiating collective bargaining agreements with the labor unions. They are a diverse group and we're a diverse group, and we feel that at last management has unified.
Well, then how in essence are you going to stop inflation?
Well, we hope to reach a more reasonable settlement at the bargaining table to create uniform working rules and conditions for all of the North Texas area, so that the carpenters can go to Fort Worth and work, and some Fort Worth carpenters can come over here. The various craftsmen would have more easy access and egress into the various cities to work. It would make a more competitive situation amongst contractors, and that they could bid more easily in Fort Worth and Fort Worth more easily in Dallas. So we think this will strengthen us at the bargaining table and let us speak harmoniously in good faith to reach the most desirous for both labor and management solution to our labor problems.
Well, that's true. I've been accused practically of everything, and as a fellow says, you name it, and I've been accused. But there's nothing whatsoever true maliciously what I done. I did a favor for a friend. That's all I did. I didn't have no connection with no bookmakers. I didn't know no but one bookmaker in my life, and that's down at home, and that's where I put the bet up for this friend. Is all it amounted to. But as far as being connected with big-time gamblers, I don't know none of them. I don't fool with none of them, don't make no bets with them, but I do go out on the golf course, and I make bets with friends on the golf course. I play gin and bet on the gin game with friends, and I go to the horse races once in a while. I've been to the horse track maybe 5 times in the last 2 years, and when you go to the racetrack, you go there to make a bet and have a little lunch and maybe a couple of good cold beers. If you play golf, if you don't bet, you ain't gonna get to play nobody, because everybody bets a little bit something on their golf game out there for a lot of fun. Going after the golf game, you go in and sit down at a table and play 2 or 3 rubbers of gin. That's the way everybody does in this country today. I don't think there's any harm in it whatsoever.
Do you think professional athletes as a whole are involved in gambling? Do they bet on themselves generally? Or?
I don't think so. I never known of a ball player or an athlete to ever go on a ball game that he's participating in and make a bet. I never heard of it, never heard of one man of doing it. I don't believe they'll do it. They got to be proven to me. Now, the ball player and an athlete, we'll say, comes involved a lot of times associating with people he don't know and never have met. And that's what has happened in the sports world today. I think all these people are innocent, and if they've done a mistake, it's been no fault of theirs by just people coming up and meeting them and saying something to them. And in other words, if a guy come to me in the World Series last year, and you or anyone else, and I didn't know what you know your business for, and you say, Diz, who do you like in the World Series? I said, well, I favor the Baltimore Orioles or the Mets, whoever it might be, for one reason. They got their pitching. This guy's rough, and that guy's rough, and that's why I pick them. So they'll go in and make a big story out of it, and the first thing you know, somebody's making big bets on it. So old Diz, give me this tip.
Well, you'll never find Lloyd Bentsen endorsing these kinds of demonstrations or this kind of moratorium on the war. I don't believe that it contributes to an early peace. I think it stiffens the resolve of Hanoi. I think it hurts our negotiators in Paris to see this kind of a demonstrated division in our country backed by some of our ultra-liberal senators.
You mean then that you're against peace demonstrations or moratoriums?
I'm against the use of the office of the United States Senate to back demonstrations such as this when we're trying to negotiate and arrive at a just peace and trying to get our men out of Vietnam and trying to bring an end to this war. Certainly I recognize the rights of dissent, but for a United States Senator in that high a position to lend his weight to this type of thing, I think it hurts the cause of peace.
We've discussed the fact that the politicians and the government people and many of our leaders are interested in the arts. What about the average person? Does there seem to be a revival of interest in the culture of our nation?
Oh, it's fantastic. You realize that perhaps the most important barometer of citizen interest are the community councils, such as this wonderful one in Fort Worth. 20 years ago, the first one was started in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. There are now 600 in communities all over this country, and I think that's a direct relation of citizen interest in the arts, as well as the state commissions, of which there are now 50.
We have contacted all of the agencies, state, county, welfare, that I'm aware of. In addition to that, several private homes which care for mentally retarded children. To date, we've been unsuccessful in really finding a place for this child to stay during the recuperation of the husband and his family.
The problem seems to be then in finding a temporary location for this type of child, not a permanent location. Then is this correct?
That's correct. The mother is very insistent that she wants to care for her child herself. She knows that this is her responsibility, and she assumes it. And she needs only 60 days of 24-hour care for her child.
What are some of the problems cited by the private and public homes in providing this type of service?
Apparently, in the public agencies, there's just not the mechanics, the laws, the authority set up yet for them to provide this type of care. The private agencies, most of them are full. The ones that are empty or have a vacancy, their rates are too high, and this woman cannot afford to pay these rates for the care of her child.
Mr. Scoggins, in the event someone wants to help in this situation, what can they do?
We've had 10 or 15 people who volunteered some time. Some people have suggested they could provide daycare, some weekend care, but nobody could actually meet the need. But if those who are interested would contact me, then I'd be pleased to direct this to the mother.
How can they contact you?
My telephone number is BL3-4121 in Irving. If you would call me, then I'll take care of the rest.